for it, so it's going to be tight. And I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to introduce Richard. He's worked as a social auditor and corporate social responsibility consultant with a range of clients, pretty impressive one, including Newmont Mining, Westpac, Australia Post, Sydney Water, BHP Billiton, BP, Novo Nordisk, the British government and Amnesty International. He's held positions previously at the Body Shop International, based in the UK, and human rights organisations both in Australia and Europe. Richard is the president of the Social and Ethical Auditing Institute in Australia, an elected councillor of the Institute of Social and Ethical Accountability. He is currently Australia's only certified, is that right, full member of the Institute for Social and Ethical Accountability. I've taken out a few sections here.
Very good. I'm glad you
Okay. Before his return to Australia, he was a member of the Centre for Stakeholder and Sustainable Enterprise at Kingston University in the UK. While he was there, he undertook work that included social auditing, training, research, report writing and project management for a range of clients. And Richard is a visiting fellow, I believe still, at the Graduate Centre of Environment at Macquarie University, and holds an industrial fellowship with the Centre for Stakeholding and Sustainable Enterprise, back at the Kingston University.
I think you're all beginning to get the idea.
You got it. And he's published widely on business and social responsibility, including articles in the Australian Financial Review, International Development Studies Bulletin, the Journal of Business Ethics, the Journal of Sustainable Development, a couple of Bibles, 2 books on the business and human rights published. Okay, Richard, it's over to you. And
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I actually think when you get an introduction like that, it actually makes it harder to then speak. Anyway, very small group, so
don't feel bad.
I feel really I feel very pleased actually that there's someone to speak to, because I think when you've got 6 streams on, I've turned up at conferences where there's 6 streams and there's no one in my room, and I end up presenting to the chair of the panel. So at least I'm not in that situation. Look, people, probably about 4 or 5 years now, I've been called a social auditor. I'm still trying to work out what that means, but it seems to be the term that sticks, that kind of communicates the simplest in terms of what my responsibilities are. Clients like Newmont, like Westpac, kind of latch onto that and go, right, yeah, we want to have someone else come in and test our organisation and then give an opinion, so that others can then use either what we're already communicating or what the results of that assessment are. So just a kind of quick map of the territory, because I guess I've probably got a 15-minute presentation here and then 15 minutes for questions. If we can get 15 minutes of questions, you got off really widely. Oh, okay. Well, look, it's such a small group. I'm happy for you to stop me as we go anyway. Where's this concept of, and again, I guess this is part of the fact that it's a very emerging area, the whole concept of providing assurance or being a social auditor, or a sustainability auditor or a sustainability assurance provider. Where's that come from? Low trust. But I'm just kind of curious, how many of you here come from companies? 2. Oh, we've got 2 companies. 3, government sector, anyone from the government sector? NGO, civil society, is that the rest, or academia?
No, we're not for profit.
Not for profit as well? All right, so, and I guess, look, most of my experience has been in the corporate sector. I'm very happy to talk about, if you like, accountability approaches within the other sectors, because I'm quite familiar with it, but not necessarily from a practical point of view. I think the overarching principle, though, is trust. We are in a low trust world. I don't know if you've already seen this slide in the conference. This was a survey done by Gallup 3 years ago. You can read it. 34,000 people in 46 countries, and essentially asked which is the institution that you trust within society. And right down the bottom ended up corporations. Sorry about those corporates that are here in terms of large national corporations and global corporations. Interestingly enough, right down the bottom was politicians, government. Probably not a great surprise depending which country you come from. And if you're coming from the not-for-profit sector or the NGO sector, you can see second from the top. I still haven't quite understood why armed forces are right at the top, which is probably a bit of a surprising find. But if we think about the world of peacekeeping and we think about actually failed states or nearly failed states, often the army is the last institution that's actually functioning, that you can actually trust, if you like, to deliver. You might not like what it delivers, but it will deliver. Within the Australian context, we've had our own wonderful examples of how much we can trust large corporates. There's just some of the examples. For those that are perhaps non-Australian, the little man, the little cartoon is from OneTel, which is another major corporate, I suppose, corporate autopsy that we're going through at the moment in terms of a major failure of corporate governance and corporate culture. What's the response been to this trust challenge? Well, we've had a whole range of things. We just heard one from Emily in terms of the Corporate Responsibility Index. These approaches that are looking to account for an organisation's performance from a non-financial point of view. Sustainability reporting is another one. Certification, increasingly both particular products or particular sectors are looking to communicate to buyers of those products or users of those sectors in terms of services that they can trust them. FSC is Forest Stewardship Council, so that's looking at forestry products that have come from sustainably managed sources. MSC, Marine Stewardship Council, the same concept, but then from flappy things from the sea. MSEP, Mineral Certification Evaluation Program, same concept, but then things that are dug out of the ground. IHA, same concept, but in terms of energy that comes from water, hydropower, International Hydro Association. And as we speak, the International Council on Cocoa, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that one, but it's setting up a global system for certifying the source of cocoa, which 2 years ago was a major issue in terms of child and bonded labour, particularly in West Africa and the production of cocoa. Companies are starting to do it themselves. They're starting to say, here's standards that you hold us to account against, and you can make your decisions then based upon how we perform against those standards, self-regulation if you like. I'm particularly familiar with Newmont's approach in that area. Newmont's the largest gold miner in the world. Hydro Tasmania, familiar with their approach in that area. And again, we've got sort of sector initiatives that I've already talked about. Indices, I won't say any more about those, and rankings. I did see Francis did duck out. I was going to be surprised if he was going to sit here and listen to me speak again, since he's heard me so often he'd probably missed my presentation. And in fact, I'm very... Oh, okay, that's probably why people are beginning to nod off. So I'm very pleased that Emily stayed, because she's heard me go on that many times. And look, just a kind of quick sense is, I guess in terms of the global universe of organisations, if you like, or even let's just talk about the corporate sector, we're at very early days. Having said that, the amount of information that's already out there in terms of non-financial performance and accounting for that compared to 10 years ago is phenomenal. The increase comparatively has been phenomenal. In absolute terms, it's still got a long way to go. Codes, coming out of our ears. I mean, I just put that up there as a bit of an illustration. I mean, in the Australian context, everything from, and this is the not-for-profit sector response, that's the Australian Council for International Development. They've come out with a development effectiveness framework, again, criteria against which they can be tested. Family and Community Services have come out with their own, the Federal Department of Australia come out with their own social indicators. And just pick up on something else that's Australian. One from the benchmarking group has now been brought again, second time to Australia. And look, so it goes on, here we go in terms of milk substitutes, and then global norms are popping up like mushrooms. It's almost like, you cover a sector and before you know it, sprinkle it with a bit of corporate responsibility or responsibility and a code will pop up out of it. Pretty challenging though in terms of, how do we make that useful, I guess? How do we make that meaningful for stakeholders? And I guess what I wanted to do was, I understood that this part of the conference is supposed to be the practical part. Is that right? No? Some of you aren't entirely convinced that was the purpose of this part of the conference? All right. Well, I'm going to keep the last sort of 10 minutes quite practical and just talk about what I do as a way of kind of bringing to life some of the theory that I've just talked about in terms of low trust. We've got to respond to that, particularly because I guess if you're a mining company, access to your core resource, which is land and minerals under that land, is absolutely dependent on your social license to operate. People don't trust you as an organisation. They're not going to allow you to do things on that land. You're going to end up having to get the military in or the security forces to clear those resources. They're not going to volunteer those off if they don't trust you, and they certainly don't see the mutual benefit in terms of you accessing those resources. So I guess we've seen probably, if we're talking about the corporate sector as a whole, we've seen the first movers in in terms of significant solutions around responsibility challenges in the resource sector, because their impacts are so direct in terms of people, and this social license to operate is so fragile for them. Newmont's a gold mine company that bought, it's a Denver, American-based gold miner that bought an Australian gold mining company called Normandy back in end of 2001. And I came back to Australia from the UK in the middle of 2001 and started working with Normandy, that had set up a 5-star system, as they call it. Essentially what they did is they created standards in terms of each of their mine sites had to meet in terms of environment, health and safety, and community relations. Those requirements looked at both having systems in place to deal with each of those, if you like, stakeholder areas, as well as performance. And I guess that's perhaps one of the sort of interesting differences, and I kind of characterise it. Some of you may be familiar with ISO 14000, 9000, Quality and Environmental Management System standards. It sets standards for how you manage your company in terms of those particular disciplines, if you like. And what Newmont has done is taken that on board, but also said, well, it's not just about how we manage, it's also about the outcomes. And that's a classic thing is, you can have a 14001 certified factory that's producing very environmentally sound concrete life-saving jackets. And that's the worst, life-saving jackets. But they produce, by a 14001 certified factory. That's the kind of anecdote that's brought up. And I guess Newmont were looking to respond to that, understanding that ultimately what their stakeholders are saying is it's about how you perform. And it's about the actual outcomes. It's great having, we're not that interested in how you get there, except in terms of being involved in decision making, but we want to see good outcomes. And that's what's, if we talk today, the community and external relations standards, which are the ones that I'm most familiar with. There are 19 system standards, everything from the mine site needs to have a policy in relation to community relations, right through to management review. So it's looking to ensure that each of our mine sites have a management system, from policy through to planning, through to implementation, through to review in place. There's also now 14 performance or discipline-specific standards, and that's looking to assess everything, for example, from how does the mine protect cultural and significant sites, how does it support indigenous employment and businesses locally, has it conducted a social impact assessment, and how has it conducted that, how effective has that been, management of security forces, what controls have we got in place to ensure that security forces don't abuse the rights of local communities around the mine site, and so on. That's just a taste of those standards. All right, so I'm the social auditor. I have this volume of set of standards in front of me. What do I then do? Well, I get booked, and I haven't done 39 of these in the last 4 years. I'm very pleased to say I won't be doing them next year, and that's just a problem. I go into a country like, say, Peru, which has one of the largest gold mines in the world, Yanacocha. It's near a town with 120,000 people called Cajamarca in the north of Peru. Perhaps best famous for those who read on South American history, being the last standing place of the last Inca got executed by the Spanish, who invaded Peru. And there's another 60,000 people who live in villages around the mine. 7,000 people working on it. To give you an idea of a mine, this is a big one. And well, I got this set of standards. I then go into the mine site with a colleague, so there's 2 of us. We have 5 days. And in those 5 days, we're asked to assess both the robustness and extent to which they respond to the requirements and standards from the systems point of view. We're also asked to assess that sort of performance. So identify, this is one of those classic ones, is I was talking to, and the third part we do is look at perception. So we actually look at all 3. We've got a system in place, it's performing, and what's the perception? Because certainly from a community perspective, that's often the most important. That's closest to get, I guess, to measuring the social license is what people actually think of it, because that ultimately what they believe about you is what influences their behaviour towards you. And I remember talking to Ministry of Culture guy and saying, how are they going in terms of protecting cultural sites? And I thought, fantastic, they've really been good to us. They bought us 3 of these 4-wheel drive vehicles. They're funding this book on local culture. It's been absolutely fantastic, their approach. I said, well, has there been any sort of damage, accidental damage to, this site? Well, what's happened? Well, the Inca Trail, and hopefully most of you have heard of the Inca Trail, it's probably the most significant heritage, piece of heritage in Peru, ran right through the middle of the mine. So they did a very good job of moving it. And I said, well, that's a bit like saying you're moving the pyramids, isn't it? No, but they did a very good job of it, and we're very pleased with the way they moved the Inca Trail. And I guess that's kind of an illustration of the sort of dilemmas that I guess the sort of things you get confronted with. Complex environment, very complex in terms of, I guess, trying to come to a view, and we end up rating them from 1 to 5 in terms of those 32 standards. We end up having here. And don't ask me what I gave them for cultural protection of cultural sites or that sort of thing. I think what's very interesting about the Newmont process is that it's transparent to stakeholders that our report that we present to the mine and to head office in Denver is the same as what stakeholders get in terms of the process. So any of you who have been in a corporate environment, you can hopefully begin to imagine the sort of trouble you might have in terms of selling a commitment, have an external third party come in, judge your performance and give an opinion on it, and then have that opinion directly available to external stakeholders. And certainly last year, a report I wrote about Kalgoorlie, KCGM, which is a super pit in Kalgoorlie, resulted in quite some adverse publicity for the mine. I was simply providing my opinion, and that is the consequence. That is well, it's not an intended consequence, but I guess that's the consequence of transparency, is that you will have issues picked up. And certainly my view was that was a good result. If we've got an aspect of the mine's performance being publicly debated like that, and the catalyst has been your own accountability mechanism, I think that's a very good result. All right. I was just going to say, perhaps by introduction to the next part, and I was just going to quickly talk about my work with Westpac, and I guess go almost from the nitty-gritty, get dirty in the mine sites to financial services where you probably don't even get ink on your fingers these days because you're just pushing buttons. Westpac use the Global Reporting Initiative, which I presume you're all familiar with. No? Yes? Anyone speak up now? Forever hold your peace if you're not familiar with the GRI. Anyone familiar with the A1000 assurance standard? She's a bit excited today, isn't she? Is that because it was like Friday and it's like, just get me to the end of today, my head hurts, I've already got too much in there. All right, I'll try and be gentle with you then. The A1000 assurance standard is probably a bit cheeky in calling itself a standard. Its real power is that it has some very core principles that can be used by assurance providers or social auditors such as myself to test organisations. And I've had the opportunity to do that now for 3 reporting cycles with Westpac. Westpac's one of Australia's largest banks, Big Four. Interestingly enough, it's been number 1 4 years running in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index in terms of the banking sector. So I guess it's been acknowledged as a bit of a leader in terms of this area. Now, what does that mean in practice in terms of me applying this? There's 3 core principles to the A1000 assurance standard: completeness. So to what extent has the organisation understood its issues and its impacts? Materiality. Has the organisation got a way of deciding what's important, what's material and what's not? And the third principle is responsiveness. So having, if you like, understood, having identified, understood, made a decision about it, have you actually responded to that issue or impact? How have you accounted for that? If anyone's tried to read the A1000 assurance standard, it's appallingly written. You're not thick. I mean, I thought I was thick the first time I read it because it seemed so intelligent, and then I came afterwards to talk to many colleagues and understood that in fact it's just poorly written. It will be revised, and remembering that I'm an elected councillor of the organisation that releases it, this is something that I'm quite vocal about, that we need standards that are actually clear and clearly written. Having said that, I've had quite some experience in applying the principles, and they are very powerful, very effective. I guess just to give you an example, this year with Westpac our process is, and and those I've got the presentation under Banara. So in terms of my consultancy, we have a, three-step approach to it. Phase one is identifying the material issues to create a materiality register. A1000 framework, within which A1000 assurance standard is just one part, has a 5-part materiality test. We have discrete pieces of methodology in each of those 5 parts. For example, one is peers. If your peers with all reporting on microfinance and microcredit in their developing country presences, then you should be too, shouldn't you, Westpac? Because you've got presences specific. Stakeholder concerns, well, if there's major issues coming being identified through your staff perspective survey or through your customer surveys, how are you understanding those and then going on to make decisions about them. And there's another 3 tests as well. And the second phase is then looking at the underlying systems and processes that the organisation uses to manage its sustainability performance. What we then do is, well, with Westpac this year, we've identified 150 issues through doing that 5-part materiality test and organising that. And we've got materiality criteria as well as professional judgment that then give us 40 core issues. Now, we take those 40 core issues into phase 2 to test the underlying systems and processes. So has the reputational risk assessment process picked up on your change of policy around uranium investment? Has the significant change in perception around pay, has that been picked up in terms of how you're managing your people and performance? Customer queue, the big issue with queue, have you understood that? How are you making decisions about how to respond to that? In phase 3, we actually look at the report and use the same 40 issues. So we're taking those material issues into phase 2, test the organisation the way it's managed, then we take it into phase 3 and test the report, which is the account of, if you like, phase 2, how they're managing their issues and their impact. And then we come to an opinion, and as we go through that process, there's constant debate and constant exchange with the organisation. What's been different this year with Westpac is we've actually had a formal community consultative council, which has 25 representatives of a range of organisations representing stakeholders. We've actually had a subgroup of that, which has been called the Assurance Advisory Council, which is de facto being a governance structure for our assurance process. So we report both to the board, and they sign off on our methodology, as well as having a group of stakeholders look at our methodology, interrogate it, and sign off and approve the methodology. That's taken about 3 months, that work has been done over a period of about 3 months. It's involved everything from, that phase 2 part particularly, has involved everything from interviewing David Morgan, CEO, to group executives, Alana Atlas, Mike Pratt, to doing interviews and focus groups in call centres in Warnceston, Brisbane, Joondalup in Western Australia. Out of that, we come to our opinion in terms of how complete the report is as well. Is it actually providing a fair and balanced view in terms of the issues and impacts that we've identified against those of Westpac? And is it accounting for performance in a way that's actually useful to people who might try and use the report and understand the organisation?
I don't really talk about GRI as the framework of guidelines.
Yep.
Are you able to comment on how they differ, WA 1000 and GRI?
Yeah.
Because I know for WA 1000 was after we took this look at 5 energy companies actually was after the
Right.
Yeah.
When you talk about WA 1000, it's essentially an accountability process or a stakeholder engagement framework. So GRI is actually a guideline in terms of specific indicators around them accounting for your environmental, social and economic performance. I'd say that the AA1000 framework is more principle-based about the process by which you might come to understand what the most important indicators are for your organisation and issues. So if you go to 3.9 in the GRI guidelines, you would almost encapsulate, take the whole AA1000 stuff and put it into 3.9. All right. So if you look at the front part, there's a bit of a tension there within the GRI framework, which I think is going to be resolved in G3 that comes out next year. And that is, you should be accounting for the issues and impacts that are most important to your stakeholders. Does that make sense? Yes. Give them information they want to know about. Well, the theory of GRI is that they've done that for you by using global stakeholders to articulate what those global indicators should be. But if you're a SME, or a medium-sized enterprise operating in the wheat belt in Western Australia, there's going to be a whole lot of core indicators that may not be relevant to your local stakeholders. They want to know about swimming. What are you doing around swimming? What are you doing around water management? Those sort of issues. Or indigenous issues, which are only optional in GRI. But in an Australian context, I'd say they become core, particularly from the regional or rural. So there's a tension there about what are the indicators. On the one hand, GRI says you must find out what your stakeholders want to know about you. At the same time, here is a global suite that you can start with. Whereas what I've seen a lot of organisations do is go through the GRI and try to put in the box every got all the indicators without doing those other things. Take an A1000 framework approach, it gives you a framework within which to incorporate GRI. It puts stakeholders first.
Which is like the one.
Oh, okay. I'm done.
No. Okay, in that case, how do you get a copy of that? Is that on web or is it on the net or something?
The A1000 insurance stand. Yes, it is. That's actually. So the other role I have is as president of the Australian Institute of Social and Ethical Accountability. What I would say is I haven't actually got it there, but it's accountability.org. Accountability.uk is the UK one, where you can get a PDF of A1000. Assurance standard framework, and there's just now a draft stakeholder engagement standard as well.
So what's the difference between the site?
The Australian site, we're very early days. So there's some informal relationships, but there's no formal relationship between the two organisations, although the Australian organisation on Monday actually delivered Accountability UK certified training in terms of sustainability assurance provision. We've been active probably the best part of 6 months. We've been in existence for about 18 months. So it's just been testing the market the last 6 months in terms of accountability in Australia. And is there a need for a body that can create safe spaces for debating issues that arise through accountability? Yes. Well, the A1000 insurance standard asked us to provide an opinion, and I must say the accountants are terrible clients because the prospect of providing commentary rather than qualified and unqualified. Right? So it's structured different. If you're using ISA 3000, there is some work that's been done that says you can use both, but I'm also hearing lots of accountants who think you can't use both. So I guess I'm also pointing out there's a limitation around using accountancy paradigm and terminology when you come over to the social auditing. And on their website, there's actually just an article that was published earlier this year in Corporate Citizenship called Social Auditors, the Illegitimate Children of the Audit Family. So frankly, that's how I feel most of the time, because accountants come up with all these questions which I'm just like, well, it's different. And really, I guess my methodology to sum it up is we've brought in a lot of social inquiry methodology into a traditional accounting paradigm, and that's where we're changing things. There will be qualifications. I mean, if you read my Westpac report, the qualifications are actually put in terms of opportunity. So if you read the opportunity, you can understand what the weaknesses are currently within the organisation. If an organisation's got it wrong, I mean, my last Highgate Tasmania one, I pointed that there was one very key material issue that I felt was very poorly addressed in the report. So I pointed that out.
Did I pick up incorrectly? I thought you said you do a 5-day.
That's Newmont.
Oh, okay.
And that's why.
So it's different for each organisation.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And the methodology is different. And that's hopefully what I'm leaving you with, is the idea that this is actually quite a complex area. It's an emerging area. There isn't one size fits all in terms of assurance or auditing or methodology. If you're talking to your accountants, they'll talk about ISA 3000. Talk to your medium to large environmental consultancies, URLCR, NGHD. They may use, they may rely more on traditional ISO-based verification approaches. And then takes an A1000 on top of that. Now we've got A1000, and some of you may be familiar with it, the International Register of Certified Auditors. There is now just the only international certification scheme for sustainable assurance providers. So it's a complex field at the moment.
Actually, that was a question following on
You're welcome. You're welcome.
how you see that interacting with the social ethical side of things. You also discussed gives me it's very much part of what I do, although we really have to push it to the next level. To see what you're doing as part of the vulnerability scope.
Well, I think there's certainly a meeting in terms of perhaps some core principles or issues. Certainly the social assurance, social auditing work that I've seen traditional environmental workers do, I found quite poor, particularly in terms of stakeholder engagement and understanding what is quality and what isn't quality, and how to engage stakeholders within an audit process. I've had to clean up the mess quite a number of times in terms of raising expectations or not managing expectations around being an auditor, and it was particularly cross-cultural. I found environmental. I haven't come across many environmental auditors that have been particularly effective cross-culturally in an audit context. Having said that, I'm still looking for some to work with me because it is really challenging to find environmental auditors who are very good on sustainability conceptually at the same time as doing detail. And that's the challenge around assurance. We need to be able to do both. We need to be able to challenge conceptually at the same time as doing, well, the definition is wrong here, or the definition, the definitional assumptions actually deliver something different from what you're intending to do. Does that make sense?
Richard, thanks very much. Again, I'm going to make the same